Okay, welcome everybody. It's October 20th, 2020. This is the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. For everybody listening, I am going to start by going over how to use Webex. First thing you should know is what will happen is the board, when your case is called, I will make you a panelist and then unmute you. If you'd like your camera on, you may have it on. If not, that's up to you. And that'll be your turn to testify. If you're in opposition to a case, please go, or in support of a case, you can raise your virtual hand. There's a little hand symbol you'll see at the bottom of the WebEx window. You can also use the chat feature and just message me saying that you'd like to testify. I do ask you use the chat feature and not the Q&A feature. The Q&A one can be a little more fickle sometimes. Let me see. If you're not testifying, please mute yourself. So cut down on background noise. If you're calling in, obviously you won't be able to use a chat feature or raise your virtual hand. So what we do for people who are calling in is at the end of each case, I go through each of the call-in users. What will happen is you will hear 2 beeps, which will be me unmuting you. Say nothing if you don't want to testify. If you do, just go ahead and say so. And that should cover everything. Oh, if you have any issues, you can call our office at 410-396-4301. Someone is there who can answer your call. Also, if you search our website, it tells you how to use WebEx a bit on there as well. And I believe that's everything. So I will pass it off to the board.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Nadeau. The board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of the docket today. If you'd like, you can stay online and hear that deliberation. Otherwise, you can call the BMTA office tomorrow after 9 at numbers 410-396-4301. In any event, you should receive your resolution in the mail within 30 days. In the meantime, however, we ask that you not do any work until your resolution is received, and please do not do any work in Baltimore City without pulling the proper permits. So we do have a few postponements today. And so if you hear these cases called and you're here in support or in opposition, then you will not need to stay on. First case that's being postponed is case number 2020-119, 1000 Druid Hill Avenue, also known as 501 Dolphin Street. That was STV Inc., care of Madison Palmer. To Use First Floor, also known as 501 as medical offices. That case is postponed. 2020-119. Second case postponed is 2020-161, 818 North Fulton Avenue. Appellant is Calvin Mccullough. That was a request to use as 2 dwelling units. So again, case number 2020-161, 818 North Fulton Avenue. The final postponed case today is 2020-164, 1534 West Mount Worrell Avenue. The appellant is Nathaniel Johnson. That's a request to use of 6 dwelling units. Again, 2020-164, 1534 West Mount Worrell Avenue. That's postponed and off of today's docket. We do have 2 consent cases. Those consent cases are matters for which the board has sufficient information to approve the request. And I'll call both of those cases. Then we'll see if we have anyone on the line for those matters. First consent case is 2020-166, 4533 Shenley Road. The appellant's Rick Richardson. This is to construct the 1-story rear addition. Second case on the consent docket is case number 2020-171, 47 Warren Avenue. The appellant is John Mariani. To construct the 1-story detached garage with rooftop deck in rear yard. So we'll hear from those folks. But actually, let's get any. Can I go ahead and ask those staff reports or those?
Yep. So for 2021-66, nothing from staff.
Okay.
Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has no comment on this application on Shenley Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Oh, right, sorry.
All right.
So if
we have
anybody,
Mr. Richardson.
yes.
All right.
Real quick though, so if anybody listening in is in opposition to this case, please raise your virtual hand. And then I'm going to go through the call-in users. You're going to hear 2 beeps, which means you're unmuted. Hold on, let me. Okay. Next call-in user.
Frozen again. Why is my screen keep getting frozen?
And there's no call-in users in opposition to this case, so it may continue on consent.
Okay. I'll just pretend I'm moving as you're hearing me, but Mr. Richardson,
Yes, Your Honor.
for appearing today. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Calling the matter of 2020-171, 347 Warren Avenue, John Mariani. And I ask for any staff or planning reports for this one.
Yes, there's 1 letter in support. Or sorry, edit that. There are 3 letters in support. They state, I own the property. Okay, so 1 says I own the property directly next to 347 Warren. 1 owns the property directly behind 347 Warren, and then 1 is next to, I believe, on the other side. And all 3 say, I'm aware of the project to build a 1-story, 1-car detached garage and have no objections to its construction.
And the planning department has reviewed this application and has no comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
I do not see a John Mariani on the list. If you are Mr. Mariani, this is your case. Please raise your virtual hand. And if I don't see a hand, I'm going to go through the call-in users again. All right, no hands. So here we go, 1 at a time. First caller. Nothing. Second caller. Nothing. And final caller. All right, so I cannot find Mr. Mariani, so I guess we can, oh, hold on, I see a raised hand.
Hi, my name is Brian Glander. I'm the owner of House 347. I thought John would be on here, but I have nothing else addition to add to our application.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, that answers the question. So, sir, the board having heard this appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to grant the appeal. So thank you for posting.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're on to our regular docket at this point.
Yes.
Good. Calling the first case on the regular docket, case number 2020-27, 420 Asquith Street. The appellant is STV Inc., care of Addison Palmer. This is a request to construct a 4-story multifamily dwelling with 72 dwelling units, 18 market rate units, and 52 affordable rate units with 41 off-street parking spaces and 45 square foot projected sign. Now, here any staff and or planning reports.
Nothing from staff.
Planning department continues to support this particular proposal, has reviewed the proposed changes to the variances and has no objection to approval of those changes. The department continues to recommend that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all construction and improvements and related landscaping are completed or installed in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. And who do we have? Addison Palmer.
Yes, Your Honor. Addison Palmer with STV Incorporated. I just wanted to add that this appeal was heard and granted back in July by the board, which included the interior side yard setback as well as the rear yard setback. we went working closely with the building's architect and determined that we needed a couple additional feet in terms of those two setbacks. So that's the purpose of this request, to gain a few additional feet in terms of those required building setbacks.
Very well. Thank you. Okay. Oh, Ms. Nadeau, are you aware of what? So basically, they need a larger variance, I guess.
Yep, so we granted variances back in July, and now they just want slightly larger variances. If you look at the staff report, it looks like it's by about 3 feet. It's for the interior side yard and for the minimum rear yard.
Okay.
So it ranges from like 3 to, some of them actually look like they're getting smaller, but other ones are from 3 to, let's say, about 5 to 6 feet, it looks like.
Okay. That's fairly clear. Is there anyone else that we need to hear from or on the line in support?
So I don't believe, Mr. Palmer, did you have anybody else you wanted to testify in support? If not, I'm going to move on to opposition.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay, so if anybody is on the line in opposition to this case, please go ahead and raise your virtual hand. And seeing no hands raised, I'm going to go through the call-in users. There are 4 of them. You will hear 2 beeps. If you are here for this case, go ahead and speak. Yeah. Oh, and it looks like John's here now.
I can't see you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
And I will let him know that his case was called and granted. Okay, that's it for this case.
All right. Very well. Well, Mr. Palmer, if there's nothing else you'd like to add, we'll conclude this this matter, and we'll pick it up at the end of the document.
Thank you.
Sir. On next case on the docket, case number 2020-160, 231 South Highland Avenue. Mr. Adam Carballo, this is a request to use the first floor as a travel agent office for any staff and or planning reports for this property.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that it is identical to an application that was filed back in 2014, at which time there was a request to establish this same use by, in fact, the same applicants that are represented by Mr. Carballo. And the application basically could not advance because at that time it was determined that non-conforming use of the property had in fact been discontinued. Since that time, the zoning code has changed. The new code allows recognition of neighborhood commercial establishments in properties that previously had non-residential use. And therefore, this department is not opposed to this application because the building does qualify for the proposed use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Good afternoon, Mr. Carballo.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Tell us about the project, if you would.
As Mr. French mentioned, back in 2014, under the previous zoning code, my client had applied to use the ground floor space, which we believe maybe historically was a some type of storefront or some type of commercial use on the ground floor. He applied to have it to be used as a travel agency office, and due to the previous zoning code, it was not allowed. Since Transform Baltimore came into place, he is now reapplying. As Mr. French noted, it would fall under the neighborhood commercial establishment for R8, which would allow a office to be present in an R8. This particular building is a 2-story building with a basement or a partial basement. There are 2 doors. There's a front door on the corner, which leads into the ground floor retail space or commercial space. there's also a side door that leads directly up to the single dwelling unit that's on the second floor. The owner would like to renovate the single dwelling unit on the second floor and renovate the first floor to use as a travel agency. Also, I'm not sure if I can, if I have the ability to share my screen or not.
You do. Give me 1 second.
All right.
Power is yours.
Thank you. So as you can see, the on the corner, this also shows our posting notices. We have a prominent front door on the corner that enters into the retail space. We have a large plate glass window, which sort of is indicative of a retail space. And then you can see to the left the second door, which leads up to the second floor dwelling unit. So building was originally intended to be a mixed use or a ground floor retail with a dwelling unit above, and we're just trying to reestablish this use now that zoning allows it.
Very well. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
No.
No questions.
Okay. Paul, is there any?
No questions.
Do we need to check? Thank you. Do we need to check the callers to see if anyone called in?
Yep. So if you are somebody here for this case, go ahead and raise your virtual hand. In the meantime, I'm going to go through the callers. That's all calling users, so looks
right.
like one is in opposition.
Okay. Mr. Gaballo, is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
No, it's sort of a simple interior renovation. We're not proposing to add any additional bulk or additions to the property, and that's all I have to add.
Very good. Well, thank you for your presentation, and we'll take this matter up at the end of today's docket.
All right, thank you.
Alrighty. Moving on to the next case on the docket, 2020-162, 837 through 839 West Cross Street. Appellant Olivia Bahina. This is a request to use portion of the first floor as a restaurant. And I'll hear any staff and/or planning reports for this property.
There is a letter in support from the citizens of Pigtown. It says, on behalf of the citizens of Pigtown Community Association, I'm writing to express our support for the use of 837 to 839 West Cross Street as a Mexican restaurant. Ms. Olivia Bahena presented at our community meeting on July 14th, 2020, and garnered much support from the community to use the building for this purpose.
I reviewed this application, noted that the last commercial use of this property was a tavern, which is a non-conforming use. Therefore, the proposed use would extinguish the non-conforming use of the property. The property is qualified for neighborhood commercial establishment consideration. It also is a use that is allowed by the Washington Village Urban Renewal Plan. The building having qualified, and as summarized in our commentary here, this use would serve as a community restaurant and reactivate an important corner in the Pigtown community. Therefore, the department recommends approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bahina, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, can you tell us a little bit about the restaurant? One of the things I'm interested in is are the hours that you intend to operate?
We're thinking from 11 to 10 p.m. and maybe a little bit later on the weekends.
What do you mean by a little bit later?
Maybe 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay. I'm looking at the floor plan. It looks like there's a large, what's the seating capacity, if you know? I'm counting at least 28
I
seats
have,
plus a larger area.
I haven't gone to fire department. They're the ones that will give me that capacity.
Okay.
Since right now it's we change it to, since it was a turbine, we changed it to office space, so we didn't really get a capacity. So if we change it, we have to go through fire department. They're the ones that are gonna give us the capacity. The large space that you see, we will have tables and it will be like a private area.
I'm sorry if this was already asked. My computer's internet has been coming in and out. Did they already address security?
No, we didn't.
It already has cameras, but we will add more.
And
In the building, there's cameras outside of the building and inside of the building.
what about lighting?
We have lighting outside, and there's it's pretty bright at night if you go.
Okay. And what's the system that the city provides for cameras to run through? Do you board members, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Watch.
City Watch.
City Watch. Are you able to connect those to City Watch?
I haven't looked into that.
Okay.
When you say there are cameras on the inside, well, on the outside, are they on both Cross Street and Hamburg Street?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
And there's a sign for it that it says that you're being recorded.
Okay. All right. Any more questions from the board at this time?
I'm good.
No.
None from me.
Thanks, guys.
No questions.
We'll go to the callers, if any.
Yep. All right. So first, I don't see any raised hands. And then going through the callers. Nothing from callers.
All right. Ms. Bahina, is there anything else you'd like to add at this time?
No.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation, and we'll take this matter up at the end of the docket today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Calling the next case on the docket, case number 2020-163, 12 Ashburton Street. On as Damon Speaks, request to use the premises as 2 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff and or planning.
Nothing from staff. Although I will note that we received a lot of photos. I don't believe they were in your packets. I'm going to figure out the share screen thing while Martin speaks.
Okay. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the R6 zoning district, which does not allow new multifamily dwellings by conversion. The property was last, according to the records accessible to the Planning Department, used as a single-family dwelling, which of course is a permitted use in the R6 district. Therefore, the issue is whether this is in fact a continuing use as a multifamily dwelling, or whether this is an effort to convert a single-family dwelling to a multifamily, which of course is not authorized by the zoning code. Therefore, the department recommends disapproval of the application unless the applicant demonstrates that lawful use of the property as a multifamily dwelling has not been discontinued or abandoned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. I see Mr. or Ms. Speaks.
Yes, we're here. Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about this particular project, and particularly with regard to the issues raised by planning, whether the multifamily use has been continued or had been abandoned? What can you tell us about that?
So we purchased this property from, my husband and I have a property management company. And we managed this property for someone else for several years. And so they had been working on it. It was already, a 2-unit dwelling. So when we purchased it from them, they kept getting tax liens because they just kept starting and stopping. So when we purchased it from them, we assumed that it was already zoned that way. We didn't find out until we actually applied for a use and occupancy permit that we would have to go through zoning. So at this point, we sent in the photographs, the meters, all of that stuff. So we're trying to figure out, we also have other properties in the area. We're trying to purchase more properties because there's so many vacants on that street. The property is beautiful. It's well maintained. We're hoping that you guys will take a look at the pictures and see how well the property is maintained and maybe give us an exception to the rule.
When you purchased the property, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you purchased a property, were there renters at all or, yeah.
So at the time, there were not renters.
So when was the last time there were renters?
There is a renter on the first floor.
And you said how long were you managing the property?
We were managing several of his properties. This one he was trying to get, established.
Something has to be turned down.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna mute. Okay, I'm trying to unmute. There was some background noise. Go ahead.
So this was one of the properties that we were managing that he was trying to finish up, but he could never come up with the money to finish it up. So the renter has been in there. The renter was placed in there after we purchased the property.
Okay, so at the time you purchased it, you had never, as far as you know, as long as you've been managing it, the property had not been used as a multifamily dwelling.
It was not even, he still had work that needed to be, like interior work that needed to be done. He just was not able to complete it.
Okay, so again, just so the record's clear, it's not been used for the several years that you have managed it up to now as a multifamily dwelling, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, there's some discretion that we have under the rules to make a conversion that's not permitted. It's not one of those exercise of discretion that discretion that is not permitted. So what I'm hearing is for purposes of making a determination of whether or not this is a conversion, it's zoned presently as a single family. And as far as you know, it's only been used as a single family and not a multifamily. So I believe we're going to be a bit constrained in connection with this request. And I see the photos. It is very nicely, hastily done, but that's not the precise issue before the board that would allow us to move forward with an approval. It's the code that governs if this is in fact a conversion, which the code does not allow. Any other questions from the board or anybody else want to weigh in on what
No, I'm good.
may be a conversion on the record?
I'm good.
No, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Nothing from me.
All right. Is there,
Let's see. Sorry, can I go to the callers one more time? Oh my goodness. First, I don't see any raised hands. nothing from callers.
That's it. We're clear on callers.
Yep, I went through each of the callers.
Okay. All right. Well, Ms. Speaks, is there anything else you'd like to add to your application or your presentation at this time?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. That'll conclude the matter. We'll take this up at the end of the docket for determination. Thank you. On the next case on the docket is 2020-167, 4000 Mayberry Avenue. The appellant is Troy Lambert. There's a request to construct a one-story, one-car garage in the street side yard.
Give me 1 second. Ms. Carollo, are you here for Mr. Lambert? Okay, well, I don't know if she can hear me. But there's nothing from staff.
Okay.
Planning Department has no comment on this particular application. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. French. Who is there?
So I received an email from Ms. Carollo with pictures for this property, so I assume she's representing the appellant. You can go ahead and speak. You're unmuted.
Ms. Carollo?
Oh, she says that she can hear us, but we cannot hear her. Okay. Ms. Carollo, if you want to hang up and then try calling in, or just hanging up and logging in again, we'll do it that way. So I'm going to give her a minute to do that. In the meantime, I will direct the board to the notes in the staff report. This one had a couple weird glitches to it. So.
Okay.
And I will also turn on my share screen. Sorry, she's still trying to load.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, while we're pausing, we'd like to note that should this be approved, this applicant is also going to need a curb cut approval along Everall Avenue in order to provide access to the proposed garage. The applicant should therefore be in touch with the Department of Transportation concerning that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Jeez. Sorry, guys. It's my dog.
Oh, sorry. I'm sending her the access code. All right, and then, of course, I'm not sure. I'm going to assume she's this last column user. Let's see. Ms. Carollo, is that you? Hi.
It's me. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yes, I'm representing Mr. Lambert in this hearing. The pictures I sent over to you is showing that we are not near the street. I believe we're 14 feet back. Or, hold on, let me look at my drawings. We are 8 feet 4 inches back.
Back from what?
The street. We're not anywhere, like we're back behind the fence. And this was actually existing. If you can look at the pictures, it was there.
Sorry, redo that.
We tore down like the stuff that was falling apart, so we didn't have a choice. And then I believe Mr. Lambert started to like shore up the brick, and I stopped him and said that we probably should look into it, which is why we're here now, before he does anything. But there was a garage up there before. I don't know if it was more like a carport garage. It really was just kind of like wood, old wood, and kind of a roof.
Is that a two-bay garage that we're looking at on this photograph?
No, it's just one. It's a single.
Okay, sorry guys, I have the photos for you. Let me turn the share screen back on.
So you're requesting approval for a garage that's already built?
I'm requesting approval for a garage that was already previously built. But they said if we would not have cleaned up the mess and took it down, that we wouldn't, which we didn't realize. I mean, it was a mess. We wanted to see what was under there. But if we wouldn't have taken everything down, we wouldn't need an approval. But since we did, then we need approval.
Here's the second photo.
Okay, what we're seeing now is where the garage is going. That's the side of the garage, proposed garage.
Correct.
Levy, can you go back to the first picture? Is that what's giving us more of a?
Yeah, so this is the, I guess, curb. So this curb cut is already there.
Already there.
Right.
Is it just the two photos that you have?
I have more photos. Hold on, let me see if I can. I'm not sure. Do you want me to just email?
I only have 3.
Okay, that's what I didn't see. I just want to see what was on the other side of the truck, on the other side.
Oh.
This is the third one. Sorry, and just to clarify, so right now, the number of structures on the property, there's the house, and then there's another building in the rear yard, it looks like?
The rear yard is more like a, from what I saw, more like an in-law suite, or, you know,
Okay.
kind of like a little man cave.
Okay.
But it looks like a garage in the packet.
Sure looks like a garage to me.
Yeah.
Well, the front of it, the back of it was all, I don't know what he did inside, but it looks like he made it like a man cave. The front of it, because I've only stepped inside of that building to pull some stuff out, he uses it more like storage, I guess.
Which two buildings? I'm looking at two buildings
Yeah.
that are constructed. Now, which one are you talking about as a man cave?
So when you look at the long one over to the left on the property line,
Yeah, it appears to be two buildings there. It has two roofs.
Two buildings. Have you ever actually been to this property?
I have actually been to, yes.
Okay.
I'm saying, I'm looking at a
So
house.
the back part of it is like a man cave, and the front part of that is like he uses it for storage, I guess. I mean, I've been in there, and there's a bunch of boxes and
But it's
really
a two-bay
nothing.
garage. I can look at the door and see that.
Correct.
Well, you said it wasn't a little while ago. It's a two-bay garage. It's
Well, he
already
doesn't use
existing.
it. He's not using it as a garage, I guess would be. He's more using it as storage.
Well, maybe he ought to get his junk out of there and use it for parking.
So he wants to build. So I guess from the aerial that we're looking at, and I'm following what you're saying. I'm following what you're saying, Bill. There's the main house, and then there's two other structures that are back there. One looks like another small mini house, which is behind a structure which has two doors to it, which means it's a two-door garage.
Right.
And then there's a car parked in front of one of those bays. And then to the right of that looks like another structure where they started to build this other garage where there's a black van or truck or something there. So that is what. Levo, is that correct? That's what they want to. That's where they want to build this new garage.
Yes,
Apparently.
based on the aerial photos we have.
So they want a new garage, even though they already have a two-bay garage on the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's two residences, and you're going to have three garage spaces.
Well, right now, the people that park there are, because I know a couple of the cars are parked in the street. I don't know why they don't use the garage as a garage. I can't really answer that. But I know that it is the wife, the husband, and 2 grown children that are currently in the house. So 4 cars. And I believe 2 of the cars end up getting parked on the street.
Leva, can you flip through all the pictures that you have on your screen again one more time?
Yep, so this is the first one. Oops, sorry. Here's the next one. And here's the next one. So I'm guessing back here, I think that's that other structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the second floor deck,
Yeah.
like the, you know, other home, I guess. And then what looks like a garage. Certainly has 2 garage doors.
Sure does.
The street. What?
And in the aerial that we were at, go back to the one that looks like footings for a new garage. Yeah, so in the aerial that we're looking at, there's a dark car parked where that white truck
Where the white truck is, right.
Yeah.
So part of the issue is that this new garage that might be on the public right of way. Is that?
Yeah, sorry. So that was a note from staff. That was just to make sure that, so they're on this corner side lot. So making sure that, like, technically, you know, that side, if there's a sidewalk in front, like the sidewalk in front of your house is a public right of way, so you can't build on it.
Is there a sidewalk there at all? Because this aerial picture doesn't really seem like there's a sidewalk.
Right. So that was the question for the appellant, is making sure there's no public right of way there or sidewalk that they're going to be cutting into.
There's no sidewalk.
The sidewalk's on the other side of on the other side of Everall Avenue.
Okay.
So is there an existing curb cut for the two car garage?
Is there an existing, I'm sorry, say that again?
Is there an existing curb cut for the 2-car garage?
Let me look at my pictures. I don't believe so.
Well, how'd that car get in there then?
Looks like it.
Well, hold on.
Are you sure
I'm
you've
looking at the pictures. I
been at
apologize.
the property?
Yes, I have been at the property. Yes, there is an existing curb cut for the 2-car garage. I took these pictures, actually.
So there are 3. So sorry. So there's a curb cut for the structure that's already there, but also there's already a curb cut for the proposed additional garage.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So the variance that's requested, I mean, we're here because
the proposed garage is going to go into the required corner side yard. So it's going to be, you need 20 feet, and I think they're going to within 8 feet.
Yes, Mr. French, you mentioned previously that there would need to be a curb cut. Given what we've seen here, is that necessary at this point, given what we see in terms of the layout?
The reason that we brought that up was the proposed site plan dated July 21st of 2020 shows a flaring of the driveway apron where it meets Everall Avenue. And that may be a flaring that does not exist currently based upon the photograph that you've been looking at of the existing driveway leading to this partly enclosed parking pad that you've now got on screen. And therefore, we just wanted to caution the applicant that any change to that existing curb cut is going to need the Department of Transportation approval. And, we're not opposing the idea of flaring that particular driveway entrance, but DOT has to approve of it. Yeah, now you're looking right at the existing curb cut. And if you compare that to the site plan that's proposed, the July 21st, 2020 document, it shows a flaring of the entry, what we call the apron of the driveway, which would of course become the driveway leading to the proposed garage. And that has to have DOT approval to widen that opening.
I see.
What if we didn't widen the opening?
I would ask you to talk to DOT about that, assuming this is a curb cut that's already being permitted. I would see no reason they would not allow you to continue to use an already permitted curb cut.
Okay. Are there any further questions from the board?
Yeah, did you say this was a 2-unit house?
No.
You didn't say that.
Oh, well, the house itself is, I guess it's 2 different houses on the property. I guess more like a man cave on one part and then the house on the other.
Per zoning's records, the property, meaning the whole lot, is listed as 2 dwelling units.
Okay, then, yeah.
All right.
Sorry, when I think about 2 dwellings, I think about 2 dwellings in one building.
So that's why I asked the question.
Okay. Do we have any callers for this one?
Let me see. I'm going to stop sharing. All right, so I don't see any virtual hands, and I'm going to go through the call-in users. If you're in support or opposition, please speak. Nothing from callers.
All right. I guess we lost the, I don't see the app.
No, I'm still here.
She's still here. Sorry, she was a call-in user, so.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the application at this time, ma'am?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. If there's no questions on the board, we'll conclude this matter and take this up at the end of the doc. Thank you. Moving on to the next matter on the docket, case number 2020-168, 3513 Glenmore Avenue. The applicant is Roy Mohammed. This is a request to erect a 6-foot-high fence in the street side yard. Hear from staff and planning.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we have Mr. Mohammed. Muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me,
sir? I can hear you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank y'all for having me. In my case, I appreciate you guys.
All right. Well, tell us about your project and why you're seeking a 6-foot-high fence on the side.
It really don't have to be 6 foot, at least 5. I'm seeking the fence because I have a 6-year-old daughter. When I brought this house, I fell in love with the yard so they could have somewhere to play. I also have a 7-month Connie Coso at 104 pounds. And I wanted to make sure that he's secure and protected behind the gate. I don't want anybody, as they walking through, reach their hand over and pat them or try to pat them and get home. But more so, I would like to have the fence because I want to build a nice play area for my daughter and my granddaughter. And what I also have done, when I first purchased this home, I was told that through my realtor and the people that own the home that I can purchase a fence and whatnot. And I went out to Lowe's and I already spent $17,000 on a fence that I can't have. And what I have done, I'm gonna be moving the fence in because I'm on a corner. There's a house behind me facing the adjacent street, but my backyard is on the side. So what I'm doing, I'm pulling my fence in another 25 feet so that it will, I will put my fence in away from their home and give them more space.
You said, how old was your cane Corso?
7 months.
7 months.
Oh, okay.
110 pounds, yes.
He's not done growing, is he?
Oh, no, man. His father was 155 pounds.
Exactly. Okay. And you said you didn't necessarily need a 6-foot fence. Are you sure about that?
I mean, 6'5" or 6 foot, whatever I can get. I at least want 6. But because of the zoning area, I didn't know anything about the zoning stuff or whatever. So when I purchased the house, I was under the impression that I can get a 6-foot fence. But I was told by the fence company that I have to move it in at least 25 feet because there's a house right behind me, but I'm facing their side. I'm on the corner of Glenmore and Eastern Parkway.
Right.
Their house face Eastern Parkway, but my back of my house is facing their side. But I'm giving them adequate room because both of our carports is beside each other.
Okay.
So I'm pulling my fence in another 25 feet so it won't mess up their view. So when they backing in and out of their parking pad, it won't mess up their view.
Okay.
So I'm gonna lose part of my yard, which is fine because I still got a nice size yard for my dog and for my children.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have any callers associated with this case?
So no raised hands, going through the callers. Nothing from callers.
Okay. Are there any further? By the way, Mr. Muhammad, what do you intend to use for the fence, the material?
That vinyl I'm using because most of the where I live at, everybody mostly got brick homes. Okay. So what I did so that my fence would blend in with the neighborhood, I ordered a brown vinyl, the brown vinyl. That's what I'm gonna be using.
All right. Any further questions from the board?
I'm good.
Nope.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. We'll take this up shortly. All right. That'll conclude 2020-168. Move on to case number 2020-169, 2330 through 2336, Mccullough Street. Ellen is Danica Berry, and this is a request to use as a 120-child daycare center.
So there's so there's a letter in support that says, I'm writing to express Mccullough Park Community Association's support of this application to use appeal number 2020-169 as a daycare center in the Mccullough Park neighborhood. As president of the association, I can confirm that our board members are committed to supporting this project and business in our neighborhood.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, is supportive of the concept of using the site for daycare. However, there are a couple of very specific issues that the applicant needs to provide information concerning to the board. The first one is drop off and pickup. We've had discussions with the applicant who's indicated that there would be a van service to provide pickup and drop off of children but we would like the applicant to inform the board of the details of that. The second issue is parking for the staff. And this particular property appears to be completely covered by a one-story commercial building. There is a parking area behind this particular property. However, the plat map available to planning department staff suggests that that property, if it has not yet been consolidated and conveyed by the city of Baltimore to a private owner, is a mixture of privately owned lots and a public right-of-way known as Dimling Court. And therefore, we are asking the applicant to provide additional information concerning how off-street parking could be satisfied in order to have this daycare center approved. Thank you.
Martin, is there access to that back lot off of Montford?
That is something that is not clear from the plat map. There's a possibility that there is an old alley, public alley, which is indicated to be approximately 17 feet wide, leading off Bradford Street. But there is no other public entry to the parking area visible according to the plat map that we have available to us. And we have no information on any update concerning the ownership of the property. There is a pedestrian alley about 3 feet wide that runs behind this building between Montford and Bradford. So obviously any land back there cannot be consolidated with this particular property unless the city conveys the pedestrian alley or a part of it to the owner of this particular lot. And we're not aware of any such action having been taken.
Okay.
How wide is that Bradford?
Martin? I'm going to need to get my magnifying glass out to read the plat map. It looks like it's either 20 feet or 30 feet wide, but I can't tell with an unaided eye what the width of Bradford is in that block.
Oh, I think it looks like 20 feet to me.
Okay. We agree.
All right, let's hear from the applicant here. Ms. Berry, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am. You've heard from planning at least two issues for which we need additional information. The drop off and pick up, the van service. Tell us about that, and as well as what your ideas are.
Yes,
for the
we
parking for staff.
absolutely pick up and drop. We do door-to-door transportation. I already have a center located in the area. My staff that are here, we're transferring over to the 2330 Mccullough Park. My staff has agreed to be transported to do park and ride. So we're going to do carpooling all around. Right now we do door-to-door transportation. No parents come to the center, of course, because of COVID. Even before COVID, we were providing door-to-door transportation. It comes with the enrollment. So we don't have parents drive up to the center. We go and get them and bring them back. We have come up with 3 solutions. One of the solutions being if ever needed, we would use the Northeast Market parking, the pay for parking, and we would just pay for it. But my staff, and they're here, y'all can come over, have agreed that they would do the park and ride. Not in the camera.
Who's agreed? You say your staff?
Yes, my staff, they're here. Just y'all.
We agreed to park and ride.
Yeah, they agreed to park and ride the bus.
All together now. How many staff do you have, and how many additional staff
We
do
had
you
12.
require? Wait a minute, hold on. Just so the record's clear. One at a time. How many do you have, and how many would be required for your 100 proposed number of students?
We had 12 staff members, and 12 staff members are required for the 120 students. Less than 12 staff members are required.
Did you say you have an agreement with Northeast Market for parking spaces?
No.
No, I said Northeast Market has a parking lot that has to pay for parking. So if it's ever needed for any reason, we'll pay to park there for the day. They have a
Thanks.
you park and pay them, and it's just one block down, so we can walk one block.
That's easy. Yes. Come on and go to sleep.
Is that for us?
Who provides your van transportation?
My staff. I
You
own
the vans?
I own 415. Yes, I do. 415 passenger vans, and my staff drives.
Okay.
Now, did you mention that you're relocating from another site?
Yes.
And what was that site?
We're currently at 538 Old Town Mall, inside the mall strip.
And have you outgrown that space there?
We've outgrown it, but more so we can't be real. It's not visible, and so we provide a host of services that parents aren't really getting the whole grasp of. Like we take children to Weld childcare visits, we pick up WIC, we do hair, we do a lot of wraparound services to support single parents. So we can't do that here, and we need bigger space for it because of these school-age children now having to stay in the building all day. We just create like the space on Mccullough would be perfect because it's bigger. So if we ever had a problem like COVID again, we definitely would be even more prepared.
Where will your 4 vans be parked during the day?
The four vans would probably be parked back here at the Old Town Mall site where we park at now. We have the lot that comes with the building.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, so does this mean that, I know you've been talking to the planning department about using a lot in the back. Does this mean you guys aren't gonna be doing that anymore, or?
We scratched that plan because Mr. French was saying that it's, even though we had found out that it was owned by, French was saying that it really didn't park there because permission from the city. With Mr. Corney is saying that we can use that for parking, but because it was causing so many problems, we just said we're just gonna do a carpool service, and our staff with parking right.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Great promo. Great promo. How long have you been operating the daycare?
Been in business for about 20 years. I have 4 locations. And we do door-to-door transportation at all of our locations. One of them that we have is at 325 North Howard Street, which is a very busy place. We haven't had any problem with parking because, again, we do the transportation.
Okay. Very well. Do we have any callers, or have we already checked that?
Sorry. Let me see. I don't think we have checked. There's only 2 more. So you're gonna hear 2 beeps, callers. If you want to testify, please go ahead. And I see no hands raised. So yep, that's it for opposition or support.
Okay. Are there any further questions from the board at this time?
No, I'm good.
No questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Berry, for the presentation, and we'll take this up at the end of the docket today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Calling the final case on the regular docket today, case number 2020-170. 4705 through 4707 York Road. Applicant is Katrina Walker Boss, or Boast. This is a request to use the premises as a social club. I understand we have do we have a fair amount of opposition here?
We do. I'll be talking for a while, guys.
Okay. Just want to add a caution to anyone calling in for opposition. We're well able to take in and consider the testimony that we hear. We would appreciate if the testimony is not repetitive and that callers do not duplicate what someone else has said. If there's an issue with, for example, parking or security, if we've heard the security issue or the parking issue, we don't need to hear it from multiple individuals. So we would appreciate you sort of respecting that guideline. So let's hear from staff and planning.
And I should say too, so Becky Witt is on the line. She's an attorney representing one of the associations. I have made you a panelist, Becky, and then the other 4 people I have are Trudy McNair, Katrina Odom, Brandon Mccullough, and Councilman Henry. So after those 5 have testified in opposition, then I will go, and if additional people want, again, non-repetitive testimony to add, they can use the chat feature or raise their hand, and then I'll go to the callers. So just letting the people who've messaged me in advance know that I've got you. Okay, so going through the letters. First, from Councilman Bill Henry, he's wrote, my office has received multiple complaints about noise, parking, and even events here that flout CDC COVID-19 guidelines. In addition, there isn't adequate space for a proposed social club. Per Baltimore City's zoning code, social clubs must be designed to minimize pedestrian hazards and traffic congestion. Already in its short time operating, Wolves Den's members have parked on the sidewalk, blocking pedestrians and patrons from safe routes. For these reasons, I'm asking that the Board of Zoning Appeals deny the appeal for 4705 to 07 York Road to be used as a social club. Next, a letter in opposition from the York Road Partnership writes, the York Road Partnership opposes the application to operate as a social club. The doors have been painted black with Wolves Den and white paint, and the facade is not professional and may be in violation of commercial signage code. There have been reports of public drunkenness and disputes with both residential and business neighbors. Members of the motorcycle club loiter out front of the building with open containers, either on their motorcycles or on the sidewalk. When Wolves Den leadership came to our organization, we welcomed them. However, now trust has been broached, and we do not believe Wolves Den has the capacity or leadership to manage a business or their clientele. Next is from the Guilford Association, Inc., which writes, Guilford Association, Inc. is the neighborhood association of the Guilford residential community comprised of approximately 800 single-family homes west of York Road and south of Cold Spring Lane. We join with the Wilson Park Northern Neighborhood Association and respectfully request and urge the board to deny this approval based on the following reasons: insufficient parking for motorcycles and cars of the club members and guests, excessive traffic and noise associated with the motorcycles of club members and guests, incompatibility of the social club use with the surrounding residential, retail, and religious community uses, negative and disruptive effect on the community resulting from social gatherings, partings, and similar activities. Next is from the Wilson Park Northern Neighborhood Association, and this letter writes, first, this site has no parking lot for the motorcycles and the cars coming to it. Second, the noise associated with the motorcycles are problematic for Wilson Park Northern residents and adjacent blocks. Third, a motorcycle social club does not fit in well with the character of this stretch of York Road. The 46 and 4700 blocks include hair care establishments, churches, religious community centers, food carryout, and some residences. And fourth, while members and some of the motorcycle club leadership expressed that their mission was community service and doing community giveaways, they failed to mention the parties and social gatherings that they would host. And this letter also attached photos from the Facebook page of the Wolves Den, just pictures of events. Next is a letter that states, I've been a resident of the Bologna Giddings neighborhood and a member of the York Road Partnership. I also chaired the Public Spaces and Greening Committee of the YRP. Over the years, there have been many efforts to improve this miniature business district to make it safe and attractive for customers of business locations in this block. The motorcycle club, while generically allowed in a C area, has shown itself to be detrimental to the neighborhood and the corridor. Large groups of people congregate there, spilling onto the sidewalk, at times making it uncomfortable for residents and customers to use that side of the street. No more than a block and a half away is the elementary school, where young children pass by twice a day. When they moved in, they told neighborhood leaders they would be good neighbors and promised they'd maintain the existing garden at the bus shelter by taking care of litter there and around the tree pits. They have not done so. We see speeding bikes weaving around cars and causing excessive noise for other corridor residents and commuters. The police are apparently unable to control this disruptive activity along a significant stretch of the corridor. Next is a letter from the owner of the Spark Salon and Spa, which is next door, writing, I strongly oppose the approval of the Wolves Den Motorcycle Social Club. Starting in June 2020, I experienced disruptions to my business, such as the smell of marijuana filtering into my salon establishment during business hours. The loitering and parking of motorcycles on the sidewalk impedes the pathway for pedestrians and my clients. There were times when members gathered outside to socialize while playing loud music, revving motorcycles, and smoking. They park their bikes on the sidewalk, consume all the street parking, and place orange cones in the street in front of my building so no one is able to park, including my clients. Members repair and weld motorcycles on the front sidewalk of York Road. The street corners of York and Cold Spring have 3 bus stops as well as a corner fast food store. The Wolves Den has severely added to the crowding and the street is now congested throughout the day. During their outdoor gatherings, they do not comply with social distancing or wear masks. And they do not offer any services needed by the community. There is a petition with 55 signatures. I'm not going to read through it because it echoes some of the letters, but 55 people have signed it. And then there's also a packet of photos showing motorcycles parked on the street, people gathered on the sidewalk, a large grill in front of the building, and photos of parties indoors. All right, sorry, that's 3 more letters. A former resident of the Wilson Park community writes, I was disheartened to see the sidewalk impeded by a crowd of people and motorcycles parked on the pavement. Subsequently, it was difficult for me to pass through the crowd and I grew uncomfortable as I was exposed to secondhand smoke from people in front of the motorcycle club. Amid the pandemic, I was deeply concerned for my health due to the overwhelming amount of patrons unmasked and gathering in a small, narrow space. Students of both Wilson P. Carter and Guilford Elementary and Middle School often travel by foot through the neighborhood, and it is my concern they'll be negatively influenced by patrons of the Wolves Den. I asked the zoning board to consider the impact of business activities such as loud music, night gatherings, profanity, and possibly increased violence burden the residents in the historic Wilson Park community. Next letter states, I've been a lifelong resident of Baltimore City and a member and patron of the York Road Wilson Park community. There's large nighttime party-like gatherings, often including alcohol consumption. They've been heard blasting on more than one occasion, very loud music that can be heard and felt through the walls. Parking has long been a struggle for this region of York Road and is an important factor in the level of success and patronage of the businesses, that the businesses in the area receive. Members have been parking motorcycles in the front, even when there are ample parking spaces in front of not only their building, but a vacant building on the other side next to them. The den often leaves their door open, obstructing the walking path for pedestrians on the sidewalk. They congregate on the sidewalk with chairs and even their motorcycle, preventing easy passage of pedestrians. They throw block parties, including a large coal-fire oil tank grill in front of the building. And then the last letter states, these are 2 residents. We believe the activities of this club are not in keeping with the York Road Corridor Collective's York Road Corridor Vision and Action Plan and will not strengthen or position the community for future success.
Okay. Bit of a mouthful. Mr. French.
Okay. Planning Department reviewed this application. It was made by Ms. Walker Boast on behalf of the Goddesses of the Gods Social Club. The building on the site covers the entire lot, and therefore there is no possibility of providing any type of off-street parking on this particular property. There is a 10-foot wide alley behind the building which separates this commercial section of York Road from the residential area of Wilson Park behind it. The thing that is of concern other than the need to establish conditions for approval, which would be making this more compatible with the residential community on the other side of that 10-foot wide alley, is the question of off-street parking. The social club is listed as an affiliate of a motorcycle club, and therefore it's likely that most, if not all, persons attending social club events and meetings would arrive by motorcycle. Because the dimensions of a motorcycle parking space are smaller than those of a standard motor vehicle parking space, as specified in the zoning code, the applicant is encouraged to provide the board information about any nearby off-street parking areas which may be available during club events or meetings and the motorcycle stationing capacity of those parking areas. The department therefore encourages the applicant to provide the board with necessary information that would allow the board to establish reasonable conditions for approval should the board choose to do so. Thank you.
Hey, Martin, what does it mean? I'm reading these lots are close to being consolidated.
I do not know what that's a reference to. The property 4705 and 4707 are shown on the plat map as consolidated properties. They were obviously at one time two separate properties. The applicant is proposing to use 4707, both floors, as the social club, and that presumably leaves out the portion of the building known as 4705 for other use.
What do we know about that, where it says these lots are close to being consolidated?
Where do you see that? Sorry.
Right at the top of the sheet.
Oh, sorry. I'm not sure actually. Hold on. Oh, I see. Okay, so it's so 4705 is lot 3 and 4707 is lot 4. So I assume maybe they're in the process of consolidating those two? Because it is two separate lots on the block, the plat map.
Well, if they're not yet consolidated, should we even be taking this up?
There's an interesting problem with that, and that is that the plat map and the record that planning has available to it suggest that the lot size, which is reflected in the permit record, which is 0.058 acres, in fact, is composed of two lots, each 19 feet 6 inches wide by approximately 64 feet 4 inches deep.
Yeah.
So apparently, in some records, the lots are already listed as consolidated, and the plat map has not been updated to show that consolidation.
I will say the plat maps are slower on updates than the rest of the city systems, if that helps.
Okay,
So,
and before we ask the applicant, do we know what it says to use first floor social clubs? Is first floor 4705 or 4707?
I think it's the first floor of both.
Both.
Based on our records and planning's records, I'm thinking that this is an issue where the plat map has just not been updated. I recommend we go ahead and I will investigate it further. And if that is not the case, I will let the board know. But based on our records, especially the ones that Martin just read, I believe they are consolidated and it's just something with the map.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Walker-Bost? Muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for appearing today. Can you tell us about this project, and particularly we'd like to hear your response to some of the concerns that were raised in the letter, and particularly also the issue of parking.
Well, first, start off by saying I initially upon entering into the contract with, owning the Wolves Den, the large masses of people were merely just a bunch of people helping us clean up the property, because upon moving in there, it was a disaster. I was unaware initially of the zoning issues until recently. So this was a lot to intake, honestly, because our issue actually began with our neighbor, Miss Trudy McNair, where she started to tell us how we were supposed to conduct our business. And instead of allowing us to come in and clean up.
Well, let me ask you this, ma'am. When did you acquire the property? When was the
May.
property acquired? In May of this year?
Yeah. Yes.
And how, in what capacity has the property been operated since May? What are you doing in there?
Well, we have actually been trying to, like I said, get the building into a state where it is conducive for storage of our memorabilia and our things that we do for the community, like cleanups. However, this is a building that is it's two buildings together. So the top part of it we can only use for storage. The 2 floors that we are using are mainly for our meetings and our social area. Now, there is a total of 25 members between both clubs. We all live within this community for years. Some of us have been raised here. And we have no intention on servicing or having outside people come in for parties. I mean, we have had gatherings in the beginning, like cleanup parties, but that was mainly just for us. It had nothing to do with the outside community. We also had to, once issues were brought to our attention by our neighbor that she had problems with, we went to the community liaison and we had a conversation. Now, at the time of that meeting, everything that she had addressed that she had an issue with, we corrected and we did not do it again. After such, we started getting brigaded with like calls from her calling the police and making several different accusations about what we were doing within the community, and that wasn't the case. Now, I've provided the pictures and also letters and also signatures of people within our community that want us there. We do community cleanups, as you can see from the photos. Consistently, we have the grill that was out that day was part of our clothing giveaway that we did within the community. We also, the grill was there because we gave free hot dogs, chips, and sodas to the kids and anyone that came up to get the free clothing. We talked to the police. They did not have an issue with us. So we were under the impression that there was no issue. Yet we got backlash from Ms. McNair, whose business is next door to us. And it has actually gotten so bad that we had to take her before the court to get a peace order, because it was just constant harassment. And she was told, she was found to be doing exactly what we said. And we also have cameras. We have cameras on the front of the building and we have cameras in the back. So she was told about her behavior and her efforts to destroy something that we're building. But I see, as from everything I'm hearing, that still has not stopped.
Let me ask you this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
How often are members, or I guess if you're able to get up and running as a social club, you say you have 25 members between both clubs.
Right.
How often would you all be in the building?
Well, we would be in the building about 2 to 3 times a week.
And between what hours? Uh-oh. Did we lose her?
Yeah, well,
Looks like we might have.
watch the video.
Let me see. Yeah, looks like we might have lost her.
Okay.
Let me try. That did not work. I don't want to move to opposition because I'm not sure if she can hear us.
We can't get her back?
Let me see if she's... Okay, we have someone else from her organization who said that they can continue for her.
Great.
Okay. There we go. I should say for the board, sorry about this. There was so she had sent me looks like a PowerPoint presentation, and it has a couple letters of support and a petition. I hadn't read them because I wasn't sure if she was going to share them, but I can read those for the board as well. It's a petition signed by 60 people.
60, you said?
Yep. So 60 signatures, and then there's 3 letters of support from members of the club itself. So I will wait and see if someone from the organization wants to testify to them, or I can read them. It's up to the board.
Does the petition have addresses?
So this petition has email addresses and phone numbers.
But no street addresses?
No street addresses. But if the owner would like to testify, he can go ahead unless the board wants me to read those letters.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Can you just give us a little more information? I know it's
Sure.
Previous person 2 to 3 times a week, so hours, like what's exactly going on?
No problem. I got you. All right.
Your name first, sir.
My name is Antoine Hubbard.
Okay, Mr. Hubbard, thank you.
The hours that we be there are usually very late hours, which are from 8 to 12 to 2, p.m. to a.m. And when we have a community cleanup or a book bag drive or something, of course we do that early in the day. Do we take up enough space on the sidewalk for people to get through? No, we don't. The bike that was on the curb was right next to the building, and people can pass the building and right to Miss McNear's business at any time. So at no time was the sidewalk blocked at all. But the hours we do be in there, we do be there 2-3 times a week, fully. But somebody is going to check on there every day because that's our house. You know, we have to make sure everything is good every day. You got to make sure things are ran right every day.
At the social club, do you sell food or do you sell alcoholic beverages? Like,
No, we sell nothing. We sell absolutely nothing.
Okay.
We are a club. We are a family. People come there from other clubs. No outsiders. No. The only time we do outside is when we giving something away. Other than that, everybody that comes in that clubhouse is either in our club, which actually is more than 2 clubs. It's 3 clubs actually. And yes, we do have 25 plus members. And sometimes it do become more because new people want to come on.
Well, let me interrupt you there because you said that. So I get it, it's like 3 clubs total for you guys, and you said people come from other clubs. So what is the maximum capacity? You know, like how many people are in this building? If you have your 3 clubs plus other people from other clubs, how many people are we talking about?
Now, if our 3 clubs are in there full, we don't let another club come in. We are pretty much at capacity to us. But if we have a night where another club come in, the most people will be there from other clubs are maybe 20.
So 20 people from other clubs.
20 to 25.
Well, I have a question. When you all come, where do you park your bikes and your cars?
Now, the bikes are parked right in front of our building. We do not park the bikes in front of anybody else's building unless we have permission to.
Are they on the street or the street or sidewalk?
Street.
Okay.
How many bikes are you talking about?
Bikes, maybe 5. And being the fact that we have the bottom floor of both 4707 and 05, them 5 bikes fit right in front of our establishment.
Let me ask you another question. The previous speaker, Ms. Walker Bost.
Yes.
She mentioned a whole series of issues related to the next door neighbor.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you
Yes,
think,
sir.
why do you think that the city councilman and 3 adjacent community associations all are opposing this?
Honestly, because of what people see on TV and what people hear and think, you know, of course, motorcycle clubs, social clubs, they got a bad rap. Let's be real here. No matter what, whether you have a motorcycle, if you wear a vest, you're gonna have that bad rap of all the other clubs out there, like Hell's Angels and pagans and outlaw clubs, which we are not. We are all about community.
Miss Walker Boss just posted that she wants to be allowed to speak again. She got she's back also, just to let you guys know.
Okay.
Did you meet with the city councilman or the neighborhood associations?
I didn't get to personally meet with them, but I definitely did email the lieutenant city council. And I also talked to Pastor Thompson of Wilson Park Community Church.
Have you been affiliated with this site since it was purchased in May?
Yes.
And so are you all effectively operating it as a social club now? And you're just taking the paperwork?
We're not. Right now, everything is closed up because they got the signs on the door. We do not, we don't disobey what we have to do. That that was something that needed to be done, so we're doing it. That's why we're here now.
Does your organization rent those properties or own them?
We rent the properties.
Okay.
And did you have another location prior to this, to moving into this location in May?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so this is your first time having an actual location for your social club?
Yes.
And, okay.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
When the folks, when you have meetings or what the proposed meetings are, I mean, wouldn't you expect your members and proposed members to arrive on their bikes?
Well, everybody in our club don't ride. You know,
only about 5 bikes would be present. I mean, aren't you expecting to grow that?
Are we expecting to grow that? Yes, of course, but we wouldn't put them bikes right in front of the because they wouldn't fit.
Where would you put them?
Basically, in any parking spot that would fit. You know, it's pretty much like the residential part of that neighborhood is behind us. Where we are is business, everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can I speak for a second?
Go ahead, ma'am. Ms. Boss, go ahead.
There are only five members of the club who actually have motorcycles, and they don't always ride their bikes. Like I was saying before, like a majority of us live in the community within walking distance to the club. So if needed, we could always walk there and we would not be impeding traffic or taking up other parking spaces. I honestly feel like we weren't given an opportunity to present fully the things that we do because we had the stigma of what people assumed a motorcycle or social club was. So then now we're being faced with all these oppositions of other people within the community because of one individual causing people to feel a certain way.
Ms. Walker-Boss, let me stop you right there and ask you a question about that. I understand that it's probably your direct next door neighbor you're talking about at the salon, who you believe is the one individual. But before you got a chance to present your case, we did receive a bunch of letters and comments from people who aren't her, from people who are the neighborhood associations, who are other people around that. And so I want you to know that you're not being targeted by this one woman. But I have a question for you. This is your club's first location. How much research did you do on the neighborhood to find this, to decide that this was the right place for your motorcycle club? Or was it the other way around? Was it the space became available and you guys really wanted somewhere to be, so you kind of defaulted to this place? What makes what makes this ideal for a motorcycle club?
Well, what made it ideal for it's not, I want to kind of get away from the motorcycle club, thought. This space was ideal because we live in this community and we knew the needs of the community. So putting our club in this location made sense because we were able to help both ends.
Ms. Walker-Boss, I don't know if you heard the question I asked earlier, but
okay.
You mentioned many times the neighbor next door.
Yes.
Why do you think that the council person and the neighborhood associations all opposed it? And did you
Because
approach,
she is
did you,
very,
excuse me, and did you,
her comments that she said,
I think she has a delay because that may be accounting for why we seem to be talking over one another. Go ahead, finish, Bill.
I'd like to know if they approached the neighborhood associations and Bill Henry, and why she thinks they all oppose it.
well, for one, I know that out of her own mouth, the threats that she had given to say that she had all of these people on her side as to because we did not listen to her. These were the repercussions. So that's why I'm going off. That's how I'm going off of feeling as though this was her personal like witch hunt to destroy the thought or the appearance of what we were actually trying to
But
do.
you're not
There
answering my
was
question. Did you approach Councilman Henry and did you approach the various community associations?
the Waverly Community Association. Yes, I'm a part of that, as well as
No, I'm not asking your
I
part.
didn't speak with council. I spoke with his liaison prior, but I've never spoke with him specifically. And I was on a call. I introduced myself and the club on a call meeting that they had within the other community surrounding. But I have yet to personally, face to face meet with them.
I don't have any.
Do you have a sense that the community associations are not familiar with what it is you're trying to do or the services you seek to provide? And
yes, I do feel like that.
Okay, have they invited you to a meeting to make a presentation, even to their executive boards, anything like that? Because there seems to be a huge disconnect.
Right, never. And we were, again, when I was on the line the one time, I made it known that I gave my email. I let them know that I was more than willing to come to anything so that they could familiarize themselves with the things that we do and who we are. We are just looking for an opportunity. We're not trying to bring any type of disturbance to a community again that we live in and we love. So we're trying to better it, not take away. So if we would ultimately, and this is what we're fighting for, we have an opportunity to show that we're not what people think.
Okay, who owns this building and who's renting? Who are the tenants?
So it will be myself and Michael Boss.
What?
And our team would be the tenant. Norrell Properties owns the I'm saying that wrong. They own the property itself. So we're actually renters.
I'm sorry. Say that name again. You said Noel Properties?
It's no.
Norino.
Norino, right? I couldn't get it out. I'm sorry.
Norino Properties LLC.
Okay.
And this building has been several different things that we're not, altogether positive or had longevity. And we're trying very hard to redo that. But we have to have an opportunity to be able to do that. We're hardworking people. We're not hoodlums. Like I said, we're not here to cause any type of trouble.
And do you have an active lease presently, apparently?
Yes.
And was that lease signed in May?
Yes, it was.
Okay, have you provided a copy of that lease to the zoning office?
No, they didn't. I didn't receive a. When I looked through the documentation that I was supposed to submit, I didn't see that that was something I needed to submit. But I can always submit that to you guys if needed.
Well, you can imagine, given the fervor around your group being there, there's sort of a question, an open question as to what it is you're doing, what it is you've done, what it is you will be doing, and there apparently, I would imagine, be some guidelines and representations in your lease as to who you are, what you're going to do, what the restrictions are under the terms of your lease. That may help inform what is what your group is there to do, or some of the limitations on the lease. I don't know whether you have a.
Actually, it is a general commercial lease, and we were told that what our intentions was for the building was absolutely fine. And this is our first time ever having a commercial property. So there were some things that we were unclear as far as like I said, the zoning, and other things. However, the minute that I was aware of those things, I hopped right on it. There were several times that I tried to do things, but because we were right in the middle of COVID, there were a lot of things closed down. I was unable to, get a hold to anybody. It took me forever to even get through to anyone. So I have actively I've been trying to do everything that, by the law as we were supposed to. Our landlord even, he submitted a letter to, but his lease is very straight to the point. There's no extra, there's no outline of anything. We're supposed to pay the rent, pay the utilities, and make sure the property is in well working conditions as the property was given. However, like I said, the property itself was it was abandoned for quite some time. So trying to get it up to a place where it is just it's functional, that's been what we were doing to begin with. But even through all of that, we still did a book bag drive. We still do free food and clothing giveaways. We still provide tutoring services, but not within, but the virtual tutoring services for children. We will clean up yards of our surrounding residents. Like there's absolutely so many things that we have that we're trying to do if given the opportunity.
I don't have any more questions.
All right, I think we want to hear from some of these folks that are waiting to speak. I see Councilman Henry's hand is raised and several others. So let's hear those if we can. You're muted.
Sorry. So I'm going to start with Becky Witt. Becky, you are unmuted.
Hi, everyone. Becky Witt on behalf of the Wilson Park Northern Neighbors Association.
You're going to have to speak up, Ms. Witt.
You can't hear me?
Be like.
I can hear you.
You can? Okay. I'm going to keep talking then. So I think what would make most sense is for the people to be heard in this order. I think Ms. McNair first, then Katrina Odom, then Brandon Mccullough, if he's on, I'm not sure, then Councilman Henry, and then I will be the last person.
Okay.
So Ms. McNair, I think.
Oops, sorry. All right, Ms. McNair, you're unmuted.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your time. My name is Trudy McNair. I'm the owner of Spark Salon at 4709 York Road. I'd first like to just say a little about the petition that was delivered to you by me. This petition has approximately 55 names of residents and about 12 or 14 businesses that are directly on York Road. And I tried to make sure that I distinguish the business signature along with the principal of Guilford School outside of the residence. And they have given not only their name, but their addresses, and some put their phone numbers down, as well as their actual address. I said that. So what I'd like you to know is that I did this by foot because I knew there were conversations going on about the club. This is in very close proximity, a half mile to a mile, where people are very much impacted, just as myself. So I just wanted to point that out, that we have the addresses and phone numbers and names of these individuals who are very, very concerned about and in denial of this being there. And many of them were retired. I've met a lot of people on the way. So these are not people that I have the ability to influence, or did I want to influence them. There were a number of people who I talked with, maybe 4 or 5 in that close proximity, that said, well, I'd like to give them a chance. And please come back, and if there's any other issues, let us know. So I was not there to persuade anyone. That's first and foremost. Also, I'd like to talk about when they first got there. I welcomed them there, and I absolutely, because I've been at that location for 37 years, it was an opportunity for me to relieve myself of some of the furnishings and old things. And I asked them, would you all like to take a look and have some of these things? Because I knew that building was a large building. They never told me that they were a club. They told me they were a club of 5 families that did things in the community to help the community get better. And so I welcomed them. But soon after, I'd say a month or so, I smelled marijuana coming through my doors. The loud music with the bass playing. And when I approached the guy, and then there's one particular day during that same time where the smoke was coming in, I had one of my 90-year-old clients leaving the salon, and she stopped and she said, Trudy, what is this? And I went to the door, and I saw them drinking, smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes, and socializing. I stepped outside, and this was the first incident where the problem began. I said to the owner, Michael Bose, who is not present, I guess, today. I was hoping that he would be present, because he's the person, Mrs. Bose, if that's who she is today. She was Miss Walker when they took me to court.
Mr. Boast is here. He's here.
Okay, good. So Mr. Boast, I said to him, I walked out of the building, I said, hey guys, this is too much for my business. And my client is 92 years old, and this startled her. And this cannot happen. They were on both sides, the curb side and the building side, in chairs and with their feet out. And it was maybe 8 guys at that time. And that's where the problem started. And he let me know at that time exactly his approach to things. He said to me, 4707 and 4705 belong to me. And you best get inside of 4709. That's when I knew I was going to have a problem. Since that time, there were several problems with them crowding the streets, not listening, and then never said anything. The fire department closed them down, and they, in court, said that they thought it was because of my phone calls that they were closed down. I don't know how that happened. But at any rate, from that point on, Mr. Boast personally, intentionally, on most days, and he was there 5 days a week, and much of the time the guys were around there. I'm sorry, 7 days a week. And he was there from early in the morning as if he spent the night there. He would open the door up at that point and put it into my door. And every day he would block the view for me coming and going. I have since closed my business down. The court case was dismissed. They had no proof. The videotape that she said she took into the courthouse, she had no visuals trying to show. The judge asked her for it, and she said, oh, it's not working. So that was thrown out as well. This was a frivolous case, and that's exactly why it was dismissed. At that point, the judge did say to them to get their paperwork in order so that they can operate the way that they should, and left it alone. Other than that, because I'm not here to talk about that case, and I think with the evidence and all that I've sent in, the pictures, I'm not their problem. Their problem is they're in a location that doesn't fit the activities. I don't know how many pictures they've shown you of their cleanup. They've shown me one picture of their cleanup, and I actually was kind enough to send that picture throughout the neighborhood of those that I had numbers for, to say our new neighbors are doing a good thing. They received that email. But that was the only time. Since then, I did get notice that from some of the constituents, these people told me that they were going to clean up, and they didn't. Since we are going into the zoning hearing, let it be known that they don't keep their word. And I have that, and I may or may not have put that in. But I started having this disruption clearly after they had the fire department. That's when it got worse. They would park their motorcycles. I talked to the community liaison. She talked about that if she called them and had them to come in. I did that work. I called and I said, look, we need to have, would you all help me mediate this problem with my new neighbors? At that time, I had no idea that they had not been licensed. So they said yes. They came to the salon. We had a meeting with it was 4 of us. And they were all from the association and the police department. They said, what we will do is call a meeting for all of us to sit down, and we can come to the police department. And at first it was going to be at what I call the Mayor Center on York Road, but they were busy in renovations. So she called, they called me back or emailed me and said, we're going to be having this meeting at 3:00 on this day for the community to mediate and see if we can come up with a good neighbor policy. Of course, Mr. Bose did not show up. Now, from my understanding, Miss Walker, who she was during this time, was hardly ever there. She's a medical doctor. And in my emails, and that's how she introduced herself to me and my husband, I am a medical doctor. And many times I'm not around here because I'm so busy, but you're welcome to call me at any time. She never returned phone calls. She did send me an email and at one time and told me, I have patients up until 4:00. I still have that email. I don't know. My understanding is that she's not a medical doctor and she's having a conversation as if she's there quite often. I didn't experience her as being there quite often. And as far as bikes go, they have a number of bikes. Upwards to 25 to 40 bikes on some nights when they're having parties. In the morning, Mr. Bose, because of his attitude with me, he would actually take his bike, bring it up to my front door when he saw me open it and when he knew I was alone. And he would rev that bike in my front door, knowing that no one else was there. Mr. Bose would put cones, and he would start in the morning putting cones and 2 or 3 motorcycles so that they were spaced out, and I could not, my customers could not park the car. And he would strategically do this intentionally. So it was constant. But I ask you all to refer back to the pictures as I go through this, and I'm just about done. And also the nuisance that it was. I talked about the nuisance in terms of the loud music, but what was a big nuisance for me is the heckling at women. Hey, baby, I like that red dress you have on. Hey, baby, you want to come to our smoke party tonight? And these were my customers. And then there were times when I heard it. And that's something that I've never been presented with, because the young men in the neighborhood, they knew to respect the women going and coming near my property. So the community, there's no space for the kind of sidewalk affairs that they have. And the donating of the children's clothing, we have 3 churches in that community that are constantly every day. Now, would it have been nice for them to do this with the church? Absolutely, absolutely. But their intention, without any notification, is to line the streets with a lot of old clothing. And I understand they had a free pile, and then they had a pile where they were selling. But I didn't see that. I saw the sign because he made sure he put 2 motorcycles in front of my door on a Saturday morning, approximately 11 o'clock. He put the big free sign there, another motorcycle and cones, and then all of these things on the sidewalk. But it doesn't take 12 or 15 men to give away children's clothing and books. And that's what was present on that one particular day.
And I have a question for you. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. The photo, I have not seen the photos that you presented. Are the photos dated?
I think some of them are, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Also, you know, I've been there for so long. I really do feel I know a lot of what's needed there and what has been going on. And there's so much work to keep our community safe. I've never had a conversation to tell grown people what to do. But I did have a conversation about them crowding the sidewalks, the loud music, the marijuana smoking. Though that's the conversation that I had. But we need services that will take care of the community. We have problems. We have problems already. We have quite a bit of alcohol and drug addiction, just as in other communities. And we don't need any more of these kind of careless businesses coming with liquor, marijuana, and possibly enticing those who's trying to find their way out of that lifestyle. And as far as 25 people, I think you might see pictures that will let you know that there's a whole host of people that go inside that building. I've gotten calls as late as 12 o'clock at night. You should see what's going on outside. Did you know this? No, I didn't, but I do know they've become a problem. So I'm not going to get out of my bed to go and see something that I cannot do anything about. I did call the police, 311 on several occasions, especially after I knew that they had no use in occupancy. They weren't licensed to be there. That puts my building in jeopardy. That puts their customers or their members in jeopardy. You just don't operate so totally unlawfully and not consider what you're doing to the public around you. And Miss Walker, she knows it takes a lot of licensing to be a medical doctor. She must know that there's licensing for any business. She knows that. And for them not to do that ahead of time shows their carelessness, their unlawful ways, and that they do it their way. And for them to make me the culprit and causing them to be confronted with this. They're confronted with this because they didn't do what they should have done. And I am very concerned about young people who are on those 3 bus stops, who are on the corner, and then to see grown adult men outside during the day hours, drinking and smoking and having loud conversations and music blasting out of the building. That's not what our youth need to see. We're trying to get them off of corners, and they're seeing grown men this way. So I appreciate you all taking the time, and I'd like to move it along.
Very well. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation.
Mr. Chairman?
Who else do we have in opposition?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Do you think we could put a time limit on?
Yeah, I think we will. I know Ms. McNair figured prominently in the appellant's presentation, so we needed an opportunity to at least hear from her. But what we've heard are issues related to parking, sort of inappropriate language, some maybe allegedly unlawful behavior. But let's go on and hear from the other folks that are represented here who want to speak. I would ask again that you caution you not to duplicate the testimony, but from your perspective, tell us what the board needs to hear with regard to how this is presented and what your opposition primarily is.
So next up is going to be Katrina Odom. For the board's reference, the photos were received kind of late, so not in time to get into your packets. They are photos from the Facebook page of the Wolves Den showing events. They're dated June, July, August, and September.
Thank you.
So next up is Katrina Odom. Ms. Odom, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm the secretary for the Wilson Park Northern Neighbors Association. In the interest of time, I am not going to repeat everything that has already been so eloquently and clearly stated, either by letters that have been read or by testimony. I will only say that I do not have any personal misgivings against the motorcycle clubs themselves. I have a brother who has been a motorcycle rider for well over 30 years, another who rode for over 10 years. I did read the initial application that was put in to use the building as stated as a social club, and was very disheartened to see that it appeared not to be operating as stated in the initial application. I have seen motorcycles in front of the building, and as a part of the Wilson Park Northern Neighbors Association, we did not have a meeting with them. I will leave it to the president in terms of, I do know that we have been resorting to Zoom meetings since the coronavirus has started. Our concerns as residents, I do live on the East Cold Spring Lane, deal with the sounds that we heard during the social events in the evening. Having a school-age granddaughter, I am concerned about the other students who do walk along that path when school was in session. Of course, things are virtual now. So we are planning for the future and for the sustainability and the noise complaints that have been in the neighborhood. That is all I have to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Odom.
You're welcome.
What else do we have up?
So next up we have, to reply to some of the questions in the chat, after all of the opposition speaks, then the applicant gets to speak last and has they get to speak last. So for those asking in support or the applicants, you speak after all support has. Next up we have Brandon Mccullough. I don't actually see him on this list. So I'm going to go next to Councilman Henry.
Good afternoon.
Councilman,
how are you?
Good afternoon, Councilman Henry.
In the interest of time, I will also say that my written testimony stands. The 2 points that have come up in the course of testimony from the applicant that I did want to address. One is 3 letters of support were mentioned for this project. It was unclear whether or not any of those letters were from actual nearby neighborhood associations or residents. The address from those letters was never, the names and addresses were never read out loud. Would it be possible to find that out?
So here's what I'll do. I'm going to just read the letters.
And just to be clear, I wasn't asking for I'm happy to stipulate that they're letters of support. I just wanted to know if they were from anybody nearby.
So it looks like one says it's a member of the community who has received donations from them to help her children. Another is from a member of the club itself. And then another is member of the community who writes a statement about the Wolves Den helping her clean her yard.
But can you read the addresses of these letters?
There's no addresses on the letters.
Oh, okay. Though they didn't give addresses either, just like the petition signers didn't give street addresses. Okay. All right. So the other issue I wanted to ask about is Ms. Walker Boast. I'm sorry. Maybe I should. Dr. Walker Boast made reference to the bad condition of the property when they took it over. And what I would like to share with the board, and this is not necessarily meant to take the Wolves Den off the hook in any fashion, but Norino Properties has not been what I would call a good neighbor to the commercial corridor either. Councilman Cunningham may remember the old Towers Lounge, which was in this location many years ago, which was a very troublesome business, and neighbors worked long and hard to get that bad business closed down. Since then, the property owner has continued to try to get businesses in there with apparently an eye towards that being a problem for nearby neighbors. This is there have been previous attempts during the time I've been on the council where they rent the location to somebody without giving them any idea of what types of permissions they need to be going through and what types of processes they need to be going to be properly zoned or properly licensed for that use. Previously, they accepted a lease with a group of people who intended to put a banquet hall in there without them getting the actual permissions for a banquet hall, which unsurprisingly, given the way they intended to run it, the community fought that extensively. And one of the frustrations was the people had put money into renting the place and fixing it up before they found out that they weren't going to be allowed to do what they wanted to do. And so I don't mean that to be in any way, shape, or form an excuse. And I'm not saying, I stick with my support of the communities in opposing this use here, but I did want to go on record with the zoning board that we may need to look into some way of addressing problem property owners, because they let situations like this get to this point, and meanwhile they sit back and soak up rent from businesses that are trying to locate in the wrong place. And that is what I will leave you with, is that, and I admit this is duplicative, but this is just the wrong place for a club that is centered around motorized vehicles. It has no off-street parking. It has no, let me say that one more time. It has no off-street parking, and it's a club for people whose whole club is centered on the idea of we have motorcycles or we like motorcycles. You cannot legally park motorcycles on the sidewalk ever. And if you park motorcycles on the street, you are, for purposes of clubs and socializing, you're now taking up parking spaces for customers for the businesses in the surrounding area. And the whole point of that on-street parking is it's supposed to turn over so that businesses can turn over for their customers. And thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Councilman Henry.
Okay, so there's a couple hands raised. First, I'm going to start
representatives of the community associations on the
right. Sorry. Yes. Let's go to Becky first. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I hope that you can hear me. I'll try to speak loud. I think might be having some technical difficulties, but we'll try to make the most of it. Is there any way for me to be able to share my screen?
There is.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Go ahead.
Okay. So these are I just wanted to make sure that the photos that Ms. McNair wanted to share were shared, because I think they really do speak 1,000 words about what she was trying to explain. So I wanted to show this photo just to show, and this doesn't have, I think this has, so some of these are photos that Ms. McNair took herself, and some of these are screenshots from the Wolves Den Facebook page. So if you can see that photo, and this photo on the left, Ms. McNair's building is this gray building on the corner here. And the Wolves Den, I believe, starts right where that open door is that the people are standing in front of. A few things that I wanted to make sure that everyone was able to see. These are some of the photos. Again, these are from their Facebook page. Let me see. Okay, so there are a couple things that I wanted to say, because there's been some testimony on the other side that they don't sell alcohol and they don't sell anything, but there are screenshots from the Facebook page that show them selling alcohol at the Wolves Den. This is from July, and it says bike night Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., $2 Tito's, which is vodka, $3 cognac, plus kitchen at the Wolves Den, hosted by presumably another motorcycle club. This is again photos from the inside of the building. And this is another one that where there were things that were being sold. So in July again, there was something called Smoke Fest, and they were selling wristbands, and apparently it was all you could smoke from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. There's an image there. I'm not gonna go too much further into what this is, but
I think we can see what it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty clear.
So, and then there's some other kinds of things. Again, this is from their Facebook page, things that are being sold. So that's just what I wanted to show to make sure that the board was able to see that. And I'll stop sharing my screen now and just kind of conclude. Again, there's kind of an enormous gap between the two stories that are being told here. I think that the actual Facebook page of these motorcycle clubs is kind of showing what is going on. I'm going to go through and kind of skip some of the points that have been made already. I wanted to thank Councilman Henry for making my point about the unsuitability of the site. There's no off-street parking. It's a motorcycle club. Let me move ahead. Again, there's issues with the traffic patterns that are being created. They're blocking parking, they're blocking sidewalks. There's a section in the code that talks about the impairment of present or future development. Ms. McNair has said that she's already had to close her business because of this location. And kind of just to sum up, I think the board should be concerned about this club's unwillingness to follow the law. They were open without a use and occupancy permit, selling alcohol without a liquor license, possibly selling other kinds of intoxicating substances without a license. They did not meet with the community. And then in the application itself, and this is kind of consistent with how they've been presenting themselves, on their application for review, it says, we are a social club that intends to use this property for the storage of our club's memorabilia and have meetings. And then on the use and occupancy permit application, it says, The above property is trying to be used as a place to store our club's memorabilia and supplies for the community work we do. But that doesn't line up at all with what they've actually been doing and the actual impact on the community. So for all these reasons, for all the reasons that everyone else has already said so eloquently, this is not an appropriate use of this building. It would be harmful to the public health, safety, and welfare for the board to approve it. It already has been harmful to the surrounding community when they were open without a permit. And so therefore we ask that the board deny the application.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Who else do we have?
So next we have, oops, sorry. Aja Leonard, hold on one second while I make you a panelist.
Unless this individual has something else to say that we haven't already heard, I don't know that I think that the testimony would be, I don't know that I think it would be new. I mean, I feel like we've really covered what the issues are and that we've now heard from several people who've said the same thing. And not that what they've said, again, hasn't been helpful because they've all put their own spin on it, but I don't know that I need to hear any more. Does anyone else need to hear any more?
I agree.
No, I think I don't. I actually, I mean, to the extent we have the letters, which we have not seen from the community associations. Anybody else who's written letters, they've made part of the record.
Yep.
I think if the board agrees, we could go back and hear from the applicant to have the final word on their presentation.
Yep, I agree.
Again, not necessarily repeating everything you said at opening, but in somewhat response to or rebuttal to what you've been presented with here.
Yep, if the board's in agreement, I can unmute them.
Agreed.
Ms.
You're
Walker.
unmuted.
Yes. Hi.
Walker Boss.
Is Mr. Boss allowed to speak as well?
He absolutely is. We didn't have him here earlier, but he may hear
He
from him.
was always on the line. So I would like. I'm sorry, I can't hear.
You have some background noise.
There's several people not on mute, which might also be causing the problem.
Okay. I would like to have the opportunity to make the issues that the surrounding other people have with us. I would love to know what we could do to fix that. I also would like to address that in the very beginning, upon getting into this property, we did do things amongst our community or our bike community to raise funds to help with the cleanup. And I also want to address the night that all of the motorcycles were lined up. That was actually a gathering, and they rode out after meeting, everyone met up because we had a fallen brother. So I'm seeing like the pictures that are, to me, being portrayed wrongly. Are we perfect? Have we done everything, in accordance to what some may feel was right in the very beginning? Probably not. However, we have never come there with the mindset to disturb or cause problems within the community. The things that we do is to help and rebuild the community again, which we live in. Now, I do understand that there are, again, like I said, things that people may not always agree with or totally understand because they're not a part of the things that we're doing. However, I'm gladly open to however we can fix that problem because we really do want to help the community.
Okay, Does that conclude your remarks, Ms. Walker-Boss?
Yes.
We'll go to Mr. Boss.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Boss. Let's hear from you.
Good evening. Good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Good afternoon, sir.
All right. Well, I'm not going to address the whole bunch of he and she say. I just wanted to speak my piece on far as what we do in our community and a lot of the things that has been spoken upon amongst a few other people outside of Ms. Trudy. They really don't have no idea or they're unaware of what we do in our community. We do take care of our community. We're not here to destroy it. We're here to, provide in any way we can. And pretty much like all we're asking for is a chance to show that while we're here and, that we're here to take care of our community. As far as what's going on with the petition, everybody in this community, that we know of, I can even walk to the stores right now and they will show that they have a lot of love for us in this community. She speaks on our doors as far as what we have going on here. We have no control of that because we didn't, design this building. So if our doors open up to her door, as y'all can see, our doors open up one way, and that's to her door, and her doors open up to our door as well. So, as far as her saying we obstruct her community and stuff like that, we don't do that. We have a lot of sidewalk space. We set up, we feed our community, we take care of our community. I come out here every day and I make sure that our front is taken care of and cleaned up. The barbershop guys, they endure us. The food run, the corner stores. It's been a lot of misleading things that has been said to you guys that we don't think is fair. And, hopefully God will work everything out. But we only here to do what's right for ours. Like, this community don't have that. We've minimized a lot of the traffic hanging around in this neighborhood. We take care of everybody in this neighborhood that we can. We coincide with the church down the street, all the stores, everybody, all the businesses. Coincide with them. We help them out, or they help us out in any way possible. So anything that's been said as far as we doing negative, that's, of course, everybody party. Everybody have their vices. I'm not here to judge that. End of the day, we do what's right for our community and we take care of ours. We don't have no quarrels with Miss Trudy. I just want to go on record with saying that we are here till this day because of her. We were fine before then. None of it was brought into play. But at the end of the day, we just want to have a chance at doing what we want to do, and that's being activists in our community like we planned out to be, like we set up to be. We have nonprofit organizations that's a part of us. We do a lot of donating, and we also just trying to, better ourselves. We have family that we include in this as well. It's not about us, it's also about our children. So, we're not here to destroy anything in this community, and I just wanted to go on record by saying that.
All right, Mr. Boss. Thank you, sir, for appreciate you coming in and providing that information.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, so we're gonna close out the testimony here. I do note that there are at least a couple of other hands up that I could see, but again, I think the board, if we're in agreement that we've heard all we need to hear at this point.
Yeah, I don't need to hear anything else.
Either do I.
What do I?
All right. So let's, we're going to wrap up this particular presentation for case number 2020-170. And that will conclude the docket. We'll take it up at the end of the docket. Thank you.